So we ended up all in on this deal at about 1.7.
Dang. So you spent another 500 or so to get it done. So he really just screwed that estimate up big time. Koko, this doesn't sound like a best deal ever. I'm just telling you.
I know. This is like the worst deal ever.
Right. Maybe you got the show title confused with well, there must be some redemption in the story. So what happened? Welcome to the BiggerPockets Best Deal Ever show. I'm your lovable host, Ken Corsini, who with my wife, Anita, have flipped over 800 houses in Atlanta since 2005 and even have a show on HGTV. But this show isn't about us. It's about all the amazing real estate investors out there that are crushing it. It's about their stories, their best deals, how they sourced them, how they funded them, and what we can learn from their experiences. This is the Best Deal Ever show. Hey, this is Ken Corsini with the Best Deal Ever show. Today I'm joined by my good buddy, Koko Kelejian. Koko, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
So good. Good to have you. I'm not even going to ask you how nice the weather is in Southern California right now.
I'm wearing a t-shirt and it is middle of January. So yeah.
Don't tell me. Although, I'd meant to ask you, what's the deal with the wildfires this year? You guys weathering the storm? Because you're in Calabasas, right?
I am actually, yeah. So we've had some of those projects, to be honest with you. Some of the Malibu fires
really
have touched, some of our properties and some clients' homes. So, we're a construction firm at this point, and we've definitely taken on some of those rebuilds. So it's, a lot of it just smoke damage, to be honest with you. And when smoke comes through a house, it really, really destroys insulation, and the drywall gets smelly and so on. So you have to do a lot of cleanup on those things.
So even if the fires get within so many hundreds of yards, it still ruins the house.
Exactly.
Really?
Those claims just on smoke damage can venture way past $200,000-$300,000.
Oh my gosh! Because you're cutting out drywall and pulling out insulation and everything.
Yeah. If it's really bad, you have to pull out you definitely have to pull out the insulation in the attic, but sometimes in the walls.
Yeah.
Definitely have to wipe down walls, and any porous substance, has to be taken out and cleaned. So all the fabrics, carpet, forget about it. Those are automatically out. People are tossing mattresses, they get reimbursed for all the mattresses because the smell just doesn't leave it, so that's a problem. Yeah.
Crazy. You don't think about all the different ways those wildfires affect people, but yeah, even if they're not houses that got burned down, they're still damaged. Nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
so talk for a minute about your model, because again, being in Southern California, it's not like a lot of these other markets where people are flipping 100 houses a year. It doesn't work like that in LA. What's your model look like for the last several years?
Yeah, 100 houses might be a little difficult for us. The price points they're just off. I just tell people it's just add another zero. That's really what it is. So it's tough. It's tough to put a machine together out here, because a lot of the deals are just one-off deals. You've got a fix and flip over here. You got new construction over there. You've got these new things called accessory dwelling units that are slowly catching on across the country, and this is basically they were called granny flats. Right? So we do a bunch of those now, where we buy a house and we scrape the garage and build a 1,200 square foot 2-story, which is a house in most places.
Sure.
So so we do that. Now we have 2 houses on one lot. We ended up building those to keep. So our model is spread out, a couple different buckets. So we definitely have the fix and flip.
Yep.
We have the new construction. We have these where we're actually building them to keep. So we're creating our own rental portfolio that way, and producing that a 7 cap, which in California is pretty good, considering you buy at 4.5 and basically somewhere on, in LA.
Yep.
So, and then we have a price lift model where we basically joint venture with the seller, so we come in and we renovate that house. And then when the house sells, then we get paid at the end.
Which I love that model. And I don't know if anybody else is doing it or not. And I don't want to get into the weeds about it, but essentially you take a seller who doesn't want to sell their house super cheap to you. So you don't necessarily buy the house from them, but you say, you know what, I'm going to come in and put $50,000 of my money fixing it up. And then we're together going to split the upside. Right. Exactly.
And it's really cool, because what it does is essentially removes the purchase costs.
That's right.
Holding costs, transaction costs from the equation.
Yep.
So if you're a professional investor, you're buying 80 cents on the dollar, right? You're buying 80% of ARV minus repairs. So what happens is you can really remove 10% and go up to 90 on
That's
that.
right.
So you're having conversations. What it does when you actually market to those folks, you having conversations, and opens more doors.
Yep.
And they may not even want to go that route. They'll just end up selling the property to you or just subject to or whatever.
That's true. So. Yeah. It's funny. After you and I spoke, this is about a year and a half ago, we did a price lift here in Atlanta.
Okay.
Amazing. I mean, we went in there. Now we probably spent $70,000 on it, but we made $70,000 on it.
Right.
So you talk about an ROI, man. Put up 70, make another 70. And I never owned it. I didn't have all those holding costs. I mean, I just put up some of our own money and got it right back.
And literally like zero risk, right? I mean
the only thing that's at risk is the capital you put in to renovate it. But
that's it.
If you've done your homework, you should have no problem getting that back plus plenty more.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I love the model, man. So I'm curious. We're going to dive into your best deal ever. Is your best deal ever? Is it a price lift, or what is your best deal ever? It
is not a price lift, but it actually started out as a lending deal. So we actually were the private money guys, and we lent on that property, and it was a great property in Studio City. I mean, lots of folks have heard about Studio City, California, right? So amazing price point, lots of stars, and so on and so forth. You want to share the numbers with you?
Absolutely, man. Let's dive in.
Okay, cool.
So you were the lender on this, and was it an investor that you were lending to?
We were myself and my partner. I was finding the transactions, and he was bringing in the funds, and together we were lending the money. So basically, I would quarterback the transaction, make sure that it went well. Yep. The whole ARV was set, and so on and so forth. But somebody else, the actual builder, was building the property. Okay. So we lent to him, based upon the parameters, right? So good parameters, and I'll give you the numbers. I mean, the pickup was like 505, if I remember correctly. And, he was going to rebuild this structure, 4,500 square feet. He would be at $150 a square foot, and this was 2013, so this was a while back ago, right? So, and that would have been like, I don't know, $600 some odd $1,000 for the rebuild. Plus
just
the purchase.
Just clarify, the purchase was 505?
Yeah, the purchase was 505.
An existing house.
An existing house that was a firehouse. The thing was burnt to a crisp.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Okay.
And literally and here's the funny stuff, man. So another developer had purchased it and was trying to do it. They couldn't figure it out, and they went belly up on it, and they never even got it rolling. They bought too many properties. This was, right after the crash, right? Yep. So in 2012 and 13, stuff was coming on the market, and this was one of them. And so our guy picked it up at 505, and he's like, "Look, it's gonna take me about 650,000, give or take, to rebuild this structure, right? But it's going to be an amazing 4,500 square foot, modern property." Okay, great. So 505 plus 650, what are you in for? Like 1.2, less than 1.2, right?
Oh yeah, less than 1.2.
All right,
maybe 1.2 with some holding costs, call it.
Exactly, right. So now the ARV was like 1.7.
Okay.
Right. Okay, 1.8 potentially, depends on where the finishes land. So long story short, we're like, this book's pretty good. We're pretty insulated. Okay, sounds like a plan. So they take off. And sure enough, they're doing stuff really on the cheap. Yep. As I'm visiting the site, I'm seeing what's happening. It's just, low end stuff, and, the work is subpar and so on. And what happened is he eventually couldn't do it because he ran out of his own money, so he had to bring in money.
So you're the lender in this transaction, and you're going out there to do draw requests, I imagine. You ain't going to give him more money until you see the work he's done.
Exactly.
You're inspecting his work. You see that he's doing cheap work, but hopefully you guys hadn't, outlaid too much cash that he got ahead of himself, or had you?
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the problem. Right. So push comes to shove, he could not finish the project at the price point for it to make sense.
Gotcha.
And literally the guy flew the coop. When I mean like flew the coop, like he left the country. So
the coop is the country, and he flew out of the coop. Oh, crap. Man. Oh, no.
Yeah. So now we're left holding the bag on this thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So I got to get in and do it. Right. I mean, we're the lender. So what do? We get in, roll up the sleeves, and we get to town. So we built this thing out, and, I'll send you the pictures and everything else. Yeah, it looks amazing, so it's absolutely amazing. It's a stunning house. It's 4,500 feet, 5 bedrooms. It's got an amazing upper deck. But oddly enough, there was an AT&T phone line that was going through this lot.
Okay.
And so it was going through the middle of this lot. So it would be extremely difficult to put a 2-story house on the lot because you'd have to raise the phone line. And for AT&T to come out and raise their phone line about 5-6 feet, it was going to cost roughly $18,000. So we're like, oh my gosh, man. Yeah, it's like the deal that just gets worse, right? So, and so the way it was designed, the roof has pitches like this, sort of like a gable, but then it comes down and there's a what do you call it? A patio or a deck down in the middle of the house.
Nice.
So literally you come out one side and then you go to the other side of the house, and the other side's a movie theater and a pool room and stuff like that.
So you mean you redesigned it that way specifically for this phone line?
Yeah, I redesigned it. It's hilarious. When you see the pictures, you'll see these amazing pictures, but you'll see, like, if you look closely, you'll see the phone line going through the deck.
So you're on the deck and you can like literally reach up and tap it and be
you can tap that. Yeah. So I know, man.
That's nuts. So how much more did you end up spending? Because you lent him the $650 for the construction. How much more did you guys need to spend to finish it?
So we ended up all in on this deal at about 1.7.
Dang. So you spent another 500 or so to get it to get it done. So
exactly.
He really just screwed that estimate up big time.
Totally. Yeah. Overspend, couldn't spend properly, et cetera, et cetera. So, in hindsight, just make sure someone has a lot of skin in the game if you're going to lend them money. Yeah, that's really what it amounts to. And what he was doing was bridging the funds. And, when you have any skin in the game, I mean,
Koko, this doesn't sound like a best deal ever. I'm just telling you.
I know. This is like the worst deal ever.
Right. Maybe you got the show title confused with there must be some redemption in the story. So what happened?
It comes here now. So anyway, we finished this thing up. We're in at 1.7, and now we're going to get rid of this thing, right? So we're like, okay, it's maybe worth 2 million, 2.2, 2.1. We're not sure. So we put up on the market, and it's on. You can check it on, Zillow, Redfin, et cetera. It's at like a 2.2. We drop it 2.1. And we're like, you know what? This thing's like, we're merely going to make some money on it if we do, So we're like, it was actually Gina's idea. Gina's like, you know what? Let's rent it. Let's see what this thing will rent for. Sure enough, we got a renter at 10.5 on this property.
Wow.
Now they're at 11,000. Yeah.
This is California. These numbers are just ridiculous. So 11,000 a month.
11,000 a month. Yeah. So yeah, they rented 11,000 a month. 5 guys from Boston. The guy ends up to be actually a YouTube star. So yeah, it's hilarious. It's like a story out of like MTV, what do you call it?
Cribs or something stupid.
Exactly. So they got 5 guys in there. And long story short, we had this renting this thing out, and the 1.7 is all cash, right? So it's all of my partner and our cash. Yeah. So now we have no mortgage on it. We're cash flowing at 11,000 a month.
Yeah.
And the reason this becomes the best deal is because we end up taking that property with no lien on it, and an amazing opportunity came around, which was basically 2 lots in Calabasas.
Okay.
Now, what we did was parlay that equity into a cross-collateralization, right?
Okay.
And we're able to buy those 2 lots at $1 million a piece for literally, zero money out of pocket.
Really? What did they value the house at then to cross collateralize it for $2 million?
So we had it for about a couple of years. I can't remember how long we had it for.
Okay.
And at that point, it came in at 2.5. Now the appraised value is, as I'm sure you know, because of the brokerage, right? So the appraised value is so different than the actual value someone will pay for the property.
Take it, throw it out in the garbage, man. Who cares what
that's
it appraised,
it,
right?
Man.
That's what you're going to sell it for, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. So it comes in at 2.5, and we're like, oh, fantastic. Now there's no loan on this thing, and so the lender is like, this thing's worth 2.5. You're buying these 2 lots. You're basically putting the whole 2.5 million down. And we're going to go ahead and give you these, the cross on this. Now, the reason why this works, and the reason why it really, light bulb went off, is that it was basically return on equity. Because if we had refinanced that deal, even if it was worth $2 million at 70%, we had what, 1.4 million?
Right.
A loan at 1.4 million. Oh, excuse me, cash out at 1.4 million. But what's the payment on 1.4 million?
Yeah.
We did the math on it, and it was ridiculous. It was like 11, 12,000 a month, give or take.
Yep.
So really, was it going to cash flow? No, it was barely going to break even.
Right.
We now had 1.4 million to play with.
Yep.
Right. But this way, we had the whole 2 or 2.5 because of the valuation.
Yep. Yep.
So the lender crossed the whole property and said, heck, it's worth 2.5 today. We'll cross the whole thing. And that allowed us to buy those 2 other properties with zero money out of pocket.
Yep.
And to this day, those properties, now we have a $2 million line of credit on each one for construction. Draws.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're building these 2 massive homes. And so the takeout financing was, I think, 900 to $1 million on each one.
Yep.
And then 2 million on each for the line of credit to build the properties.
So the construction costs are at 2 million.
Yeah, the construction costs are at 2 million.
So really, you're at like 3 on each of these houses.
Yes,
one for the lot and 2 for the
all in at 3 exactly
for each of these lots.
So
holy cow, dude! So
yeah,
in terms of leveraging what was a bad situation into 2 hopefully really good situations. Let's hope those. So just curious, what's the status of those 2 that you're building then?
So we're actually getting permits literally this week, and the ARV on those 2 is about 5.2 to 5.3. So yeah.
Dang, Koko.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
all in for 3 with ARV at 5 over 5.
Over 5. So even if we land at like 4.9, which there's big swings of these numbers, So when you get to this price point, you can easily drop something 200, 300,000 and
sure,
it works. Yeah. So, but even if we land at 4.9 and we're all in at, let's say, with hard money and carry and all that good stuff at like 3.5.
Yeah. Right.
Still
even darn good money,
commissions. Man. Yeah. So, but it's literally a 3-year project. So
sure. I'm sure permitting takes forever out there on a project like that. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, nuts.
Absolutely That's nuts. Amazing. Well, talk about literally turning lemons into lemonade. You're taking a bad deal that you ended up having to just sit on. You're renting it. I mean, thank God you were in it cash. Otherwise, you'd be in a negative cash flow situation. But then to turn around, cross-collateralize that property into 2 really good new construction projects that could make you $2 million each. That's phenomenal, dude. That's amazing.
It's nuts. And that's the reason why it became a really good deal.
Yeah.
And like I said, the light bulb went off because now I start looking at not just ROI, because everybody looks at ROI, right? So ROI, great. But, a couple wise guys told me about ROE, which is return on equity, right? And because of this one, I literally did this again about 30, 40 days ago, and same lender. Yep. And I had and I'll tell you, this is interesting. I never thought they would do this, but I have a first lien through Wells Fargo. I think I had like 300K in equity on that deal.
Yep.
And they came in second position behind Wells Fargo. The hard money lender came in. That's in second. Okay?
Really?
Yeah. And took all that 300K. I mean, covered all 300K as a cross.
Yep.
And I needed to put in roughly 200, I think, on another deal I was purchasing.
Yep.
So I purchased a $1.3 million property, zero out of pocket.
By using the leftover equity that you had after a first lien position
on another property.
Do they lean? So they lean that other property, right?
They lean the other property.
They lean both properties.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I see how that works.
Yeah. So,
folks, if you're not familiar with cross-collateralization, I'm telling you, I mean, obviously this is the perfect example of what a tremendous tool this could be. And honestly, I didn't even realize that they would do it. I guess it's a hard money lender. Hard money lender is going to do what they're going to do, but do it on a house that just happens to have some equity there for a second lien position.
I didn't think they would do it, honestly. Ken, it was like, whoa, are you serious? When I'm like, I've got this equity sitting there. It's not doing anything for me. There is no return on equity on that property.
Yeah.
It's just 300K just sitting there doing nothing, just gathering dust. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm like, what can we do? And, these guys looked at it. It's not a mom and pop shop. It's a big lender, hard money lender here in California, actually in Calabasas.
Wow.
And they looked at it and they're like, yeah, man, we'll cross the whole thing. All you needed was 200 anyway. So we'll take 300 on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, lean this one. And I have a $250,000 draw account on that deal. So I'm like,
amazing, dude.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
So it turned out to be a fantastic situation. And so I started like thinking about what other properties do we have that we're looking at? Is there any equity in it? And what can we do with that? So
that's the takeaway. That is the takeaway is, do you have equity anywhere Are you looking for, money on a future project and another project? Go find a way to tap into some existing houses that have equity in them.
There's a lot of guys, in our mastermind, they have a ton of rentals, right?
Yep.
And so there's obviously a good amount of equity there.
Yep.
And, one of the guys, what he said was, he always keeps his properties in pristine condition. Because as landlords, we tend to leave them, right? And it's like, dude, you don't want to change the carpet, change the, whatever, right? But like with the new products and materials that they have today, like for instance, WPC flooring.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's this amazing composite, it's basically vinyl, right? Planks,
Yep.
But they've got like crushed granite in between. They're indestructible.
Yep.
No carpet. You put that stuff on, it's like less than $2 a foot. It's there forever. So you keep it in pristine condition. So when the time comes that you've got this amazing deal pop up, and of course, every real estate deal is done like the last, 10 days, right? So you need the money, you need it now, and so on. And so now you can cross something, or, he trades that. He literally just puts it on the market, and sells it, because he's got a boat full of equity over there that's not doing him anything, but he knows he's going to make a huge return on his other deal. This other deal just popped up. So he'll sell it, move the money,
pull the equity out, or no, like you said, don't sell it. Just tap into that equity, cross-collateralize it, and then dump it into the next project. Love it, man. Koko, this was awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Of course, you got it, man.
All right,
thanks so much for your time. All right, bye.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to the Best Deal Ever show, brought to you by BiggerPockets. If you've been energized, entertained, or enlightened by today's show, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. You can also follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Ken Corsini, or check us out online at redbarnhomes.com. And don't forget, one man's best deal ever may be the inspiration you need to create your next best deal. So, hope to see you on the next episode.